Adventurers out there, life is meant to be a great adventure. Hi, my name is Matthew Marcoux from Pure Witness Ministries. Now, your life is meant to be a great adventure. And as Catholics, we know that the greatest adventure we can go on is not discovering an uncharted island or uncovering a scientific discovery or exploring the vastness of the universe. Now, as exciting as any of these achievements would be, the greatest adventure you and I will ever have in this life is to dive into the vast mystery of God. St. Augustine said, "To fall in love with God is the greatest romance. To seek Him, the greatest adventure. To find Him, the greatest human achievement." God, infinitely beyond our comprehension and senses, is a mystery beckoning us by our very existence to come to know. And the Catechism of the Catholic Church points out to us in paragraph 1 that God, infinitely perfect and blessed in Himself, in a plan of sheer goodness, freely created man to make him share in his own blessed life. For this reason, at every time and in every place, God draws close to man. He calls man to seek him, to know him, to love him with all his strength. You and I, we are created for adventure, an adventure beyond anything our imagination could possibly conceive, an adventure so big that it will take this life and all of eternity, and still it will never be exhausted because God is infinite. And God calls us to draw near to Him, to enter into His very life, not just after we die, but even now in this life every single day. This is the adventure that St. Augustine is talking about. And he should know. He traveled, he explored the depths of human understanding in his day, and he lived a life filled with as many pleasures as the senses could take in. Yet his life was filled with wants that could not be satisfied and a restlessness that could not be fulfilled. It wasn't until he let go of control and said no to his own will and set out to actually seek and follow God's will that the adventure of life truly began. So, how do we set out on this great adventure, the adventure of a lifetime that beckons us to seek and to know and to enter into the very life of God? Well, first, we have to get over the notion that God is dull. That is a lie that Satan and the world would have us buy into, so that the distractions of the world would have more of a pull on our hearts than God. Now, just imagine if you lived at the edge of this beautiful forest, and every day you set out on the adventure to walk out onto the path that leads you in. And then you stop and gaze ahead at the beauty of what you see, and you imagine what adventure it might hold for you. And after thinking about it for a bit, you turn around and go home. After a while, the call of adventure of that beautiful forest would probably lessen, and standing at the edge of the path would become pretty dull, and you'd probably lose interest over time. The enticement of what adventure might lay ahead would cease to beckon you forward. The sad thing is, we can kind of do that with our prayer life. Every day we walk down the path that would lead us to God. We go through a few routine prayers and maybe even throw out a few spontaneous prayers, but not expecting to ever really enter into a relationship with God. We do our part and go back to our daily lives, and after a while, God becomes just a duty in our life that holds no grip on our heart. And because after all, there are real adventures to go after: building a career, attaining possessions, achieving status in the world, chasing after that vast and many experiences this world has to offer. Now, there are the things that keep our hearts engaged and sadly distracted from the greatest adventure of all. Now, our relationship with God is what is going to break through the illusion of dullness. When we stop treating God just like a category of our life, a checklist, and the many things we have to do, and actually make our entire lives about God, when the forest becomes our life, not just something we stop and look at and then move on, then the adventure begins. Step into that forest, that great unknown, and allow God to draw you a little further on that path each day, deeper and deeper into the mystery of who God is, the life that He wants to reveal to us in the intimacy of our hearts joined with Him in prayer. And we start to see His fingerprints everywhere, in the blessings and the hardships and the ups and downs and the confusion and pain and the laughter and joy. We start to see God's will in everything that happens to us. And we realize our life is becoming one with God's will for us. So we stop looking for greatness as the world would define it. And we start finding greatness in everything, big or small, as God allows it into our lives. And this mystery, who is God, becomes the greatest adventure of our lives. And as James, in the book of James, chapter 4, verse 8, it says, "As you draw near to God, He will draw near to you." Just stop and think. The one who created everything, those uncharted islands, those mysteries of science that we merely discover, the vastness of the entire universe, this God wants us to draw into His very life. And we think we could be bored. We're only bored because we haven't actually embarked upon the journey. We've just stood at the edge of the forest and thought about it. You want adventure? Then take up the adventure of a lifetime that you were created for and take that step each day to seek God. I'm Matthew Marcoux, and from all of us here at Pure Witness Ministries, God bless.